terror hallucination is turning into a tangible global reality. It's Hindutva, the Hindu far-right ideology aiming to dominate over the world.
RSS chief has made a big remark saying that the world will cease to exist if Hindus cease to exist.
एक बेसिक नेटवर्क ऐसा हमने बनाया है अपने समाज का, उसके चलते हिंदू समाज रहेगा, हिंदू नहीं रहेगा तो दुनिया नहीं रहेगी.
The RSS, aiming to create a 2000 years old mythical Hindu kingdom, Akhand Bharat, the greater India.
यह हिंदुत्व की सदी है और हिंदुत्व की सदी केवल भारत की नहीं दुनिया की सदी होगी. पूरी दुनिया के अंदर हिंदुत्व का झंडा कोने कोने में लहराएगा.
Hindutva ideology, manifested by the RSS, fiercely provoked and imposed religiously unifying identity that never existed before, aligned Hindus along religious lines, and ignited the dream of Akhand Bharat, claiming that Hinduism is the default religion of the world, and now it is their turn to rule the globe.
Hindutva ideology emerged out of India and has been around a long time, but it's an ideology which is basically based on Hindu supremacy, and it's a political ideology, a nationalist ideology. So they've redefined who is a Hindu in terms of a racial and national ethnicity. A little bit like Zionism created the RSS, which is a militia that was established, or a volunteer force as they call it, to implant that ideology.
The fathers of Hindutva, like Adolf Hitler, they defined the dream of a fatherland where they will be the only entitled group. Ethnic, one ethnicity, one religion, one nationality, one ideology, and one theology. That is Hindutva. There is no space for Islam or for Christianity.
देश में करोड़ों की संख्या में घुसपैठिए घुसे हुए हैं, दिमक की तरह चाट गए हैं देश के भविष्य को.
The core ideology of Hindutva is that India is only for Hindus.
मैं यहाँ के हिंदुओं से कहना चाहता हूँ, इन मुल्लों को गांव से भगाओ. कोई मुल्ला टोपी में नहीं दिखना चाहिए और गांव में एक मस्जिद नहीं होनी चाहिए. मेरे हिसाब से मुसलमान को देश में रहने का कोई अधिकार नहीं है. जय सिया राम.
Let's look into what they actually want. So they want Hindi, Hindu, and Hindustan. So we get into the south of India. So that's about 500 million people, predominantly black, predominantly Dravidian. Don't understand Hindi, can't speak Hindi, look different, physically look different, darker in color, different in culture. Majority of them eat meat, majority of them eat beef. Nothing to do with India, different culture, different language, one of the most ancient cultures on this planet, the Dravidian language, the Dravidian culture, that's there. What is the RSS agenda for them? To wipe out their language, to wipe out their history, to wipe out their culture, and replace it with what?
Hinduism is the default religion of all mankind. People in other religions have gone away from Hinduism. So all the people on earth are Hindus by default. But the question is, what is Hinduism?
हिंदू शब्द कहाँ से आ गया है? ये हमारा है? पर्शियन का है. पर्शियन का है? ईरान, इराक, कजाकिस्तान, उज्बेकिस्तान. फिर भारत का उधर का क्या संबंध है? फिर आपका कैसा होगा हिंदू? आपका नहीं है. फिर आपको इतने उसको ऊपर बिठा के क्यों आप जा रहे हैं?
Hinduism as a religion is a British colonial construct. They created a new religion by merging native beliefs and traditions existing in India, except Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Later in history, even some established religions like Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism lost their distinct status and they were turned into sects of Hinduism in the constitution of secular India.
Hindus are not a religious identity. It's not Hindutva. It's Brahmanism. Adi Dharam, the religion of Valmiki nation, is separate from them. That teaches us to make an effort and get an education. When Aryans came to this land and set a foundation of the imaginary religion, they deprived the native Dravidian people from their religion and education. They Hinduized them very technically. They knew that they wouldn't be able to overpower the natives in war. They enslaved us mentally.
तो इन लोगों ने दिमागी मेंटली तौर पे इनको अपना गुलाम बना लिया.
Ghar Wapsi means return home.
Those who have gone out of the Hindu fold must be brought back in whole, brought back into the Hindu faith, brought back to the mother faith.
On the basis of the claim that Hinduism is the default religion of the earth, they campaign for Ghar Wapsi. It is their religious duty to bring people from other religions back to Hinduism.
इन फाइलों में उन लोगों का रिकॉर्ड मौजूद है जिसका शुद्धिकरण करवाया गया है. संस्था के लोग बताते हैं कि बिना सबूत के किसी का शुद्धिकरण नहीं किया जाता. व्यक्ति को ये साबित करना होता है कि उसने पहले इस्लाम या ईसाई धर्म अपनाया था.
So-called Ghar Wapsi is one of the most vicious and criminal words in the Hindi or Indian legal and social system, because Ghar Wapsi is a violent action based on an untruth. What Ghar? Ghar Wapsi is homecoming. Which home? What home? Is Hinduism a home for the tribal? Is a Varna system the home of a Dalit? The tribal was never a Hindu. He had his own religion.
On 21 February, the print observed 36 Catholic tribal families took part in a series of rituals. The Ghar Wapsi, that is, return to the fold or reconversion ceremony, organized by the local RSS units Dharma Jagran Samiti.
So Ghar Wapsi is forcibly converting them to a fake home in Hinduism. And you're not making them Brahmins. You're not giving them an upper caste. You take them and you give them a Dalit status. You can't have anybody become equal to you. You want them in an inferior caste. For Christians, it's very problematic. Because surely Christians are converts. All Christians are converts.
और वापसी अभियान पूरे भारतवर्ष में चलाना और ये प्रण लेना है कि जब तक ये आखिरी धर्मांतरित हिंदू पुनः अपने पूर्वजों से नहीं जुड़ता, हम इस कार्यक्रम को अनवरत करते रहें.
जब इन हिंदुओं ने ये चीजें देखी ना कि जी,
When Hindus saw that because of their discrimination, Dalits are converting to other religions, they thought they have to give us some relief in religion. So they allowed us a limited permission to enter into temples. Because there was an urge in the community to get a religion identity. Our people got into their trap, which caused a big loss. The Hindu mafia only used people for their own benefits.
जिसका बड़ा नुकसान हुआ, क्योंकि मैंने क्या बताया कि जो ये हिंदूवाद से ताल्लुक रखने वाली माफिया है, ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने मुफाद के तहत लोगों को इस्तेमाल करती है.
They have been implementing it in India by force and in Muslim and Christian countries by other means. Where they can't use force, they spread it under the veil of art and culture. Caste system. The religious core of Hindutva ideology is based on Manuvad, the Hindu legal code endorsing the caste system, where all surrender to Brahmins, the highest caste of Hinduism.
So you have Brahman, you have Kshatriya, you have Vaishyas, you have Shudras. These are the four Varnas. And then there are Avarn, which people, a majority of the people who are out of the caste system, these people are actually the Dalits. For thousands of years, Dalits did not enjoy any political power. For thousands of years, Dalits were not even allowed to, access to the education. For thousands of years, Dalits were not even allowed to have this, similar, equal social stature.
The caste system will always comes into it. Fundamentally, you need to go into the ideology of Manu and then to the ideology of Varnas. The Varnas does not see anybody except the Brahmin as human beings. They are seen as vermin. And Modi stands up in the parliament and refers to people who are opposed to their ideology as parjivi or parasites. This is their fundamental philosophy.
When Aryans arrived here, they misappropriated everything that belonged to us and barred us from even claiming them. Now they Hinduized us because we are the majority. Our population is huge. In India, I think we Dalit people are more than 40%. So the only reason to Hinduize us is that Akhand Bharat will only be there as long as they include us as Hindus. If we got separated, the Brahman and RSS will turn into a minority.
When we get into philosophy first, they have tried to get this idea and sell this idea that they as a civilization are inherently peaceful. And they have sold this idea throughout the world. The main pillars, one of the core things Bollywood does, all the Bollywood films, they have this narrative running up and down. We are peaceful, we are peaceful, we are peaceful, we are vegetarian.
You were talking about history in India. She has been invaded over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Only invaded. We've never invaded anybody else.
So we are vegetarians, we don't eat meat, we do yoga, and we are inherently peaceful, incapable of violence. And they have been very, very successful at selling this idea and hiding the reality.
And the reality is that they have achieved their success through terrorism and hate-mongering.
दुर्गा बंधु काली बन पर कभी न बुरखे वाली बन।
संपूर्ण विदर्भ में अभी तक के 25,000 से ज्यादा कार्यकर्ताओं को त्रिशूल दीक्षा दी गई है। आज इस स्थान पर 1,000 से ज्यादा कार्यकर्ताओं को त्रिशूल दीक्षा दी।
जो 20-25 साल से हमारी नजरों में जो लोग थे उसको चुन चुन के मारा।
कैसा लगता है?
मजा आता है। उसको मार के घर पे सो गए।
Malegaon blast, which ironically was billed as the first case of Hindu terror.
Muslims have become one of the tools to gain power. So there is no single force that could unify, that could consolidate the Hindu society rather than a fear of Muslims, rather than a hate of Muslims. So Islamophobia or hate towards Islam has been one force that has united, so-called united the fissures among the Hindu society.
In Babri Masjid case, they just used Dalit people. They just told us that we are all Hindus. There is no discrimination. We are all on one level. They just took advantage of the urge for religious dignity in Dalit people.
Reality always lies in mathematics, and the mathematics of that country are open to see. This is a country which is literally committing genocide through starvation on the basis of the caste system. We see predominantly the people at the lower end of the caste system being deliberately, politically, socially, economically engineered to a situation where they're literally starving to death, and every year the number goes into the million, and it goes on. But the problem is, the fundamental problem which remains with India is this fabrication of this notion of a peaceful, progressive civilization, which the Hindutva system has put all over the world. But the reality is much, much different.
Our question is that now Ram Mandir has been made. Your agenda of 400 to 500 years has been fulfilled. So the people who you used for this purpose, where is that class now? That nation not being accommodated anywhere.
And then all this comes together to bring Ram Rajya in India, the so-called Hindu Rashtra, Akhand Bharat. Rule beyond the current boundaries of India. They are imprinting this idea through academia and films.
कुछ लोगों के लिए अखंड भारत का मतलब है कि आज का इंडिया प्लस पाकिस्तान ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर और चाइना ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर, जो कि इंडिया का ऑफिशियल मैप दर्शाता है। दूसरी तरफ कुछ लोगों के लिए अखंड भारत का मतलब है 1947 के पार्टीशन से पहले का भारत, यानी इंडिया प्लस आज का पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश मिलकर अखंड भारत को बनाएंगे। तीसरा, कुछ लोगों के लिए अखंड भारत की बाउंड्रीज में अफगानिस्तान, नेपाल, भूटान, श्रीलंका जैसी इंडिया की नेबरिंग कंट्रीज भी इंक्लूडेड है। और चौथा, कुछ लोगों के लिए अखंड भारत की बाउंड्रीज हैं अफगानिस्तान से लेकर ना सिर्फ तिब्बत तक बल्कि थाईलैंड, कंबोडिया, मलेशिया और इंक्लूडिंग इंडोनेशिया तक।
Some maps expand Akhand Bharat to parts of Australia and New Zealand as well. Not just that, Hindutva is aiming to assert power beyond that, where Akhand Bharat is not a geographical possibility, they aim for political and cultural Akhand Bharat.
एक समय पर इंडिया का पूरे के पूरे एशिया में एक कल्चरल दबदबा बना हुआ था। इनफैक्ट इंडियन कल्चर के साथ साथ इंडियन फिल्म्स को भी प्रमोट किया जा रहा है पूरी दुनिया में इंडियन कल्चरल इन्फ्लुएंस बढ़ाने के लिए। इंडियन फिलोसफी, इंडियन लिटरेचर, इंडियन योगा, इंडिया धीरे धीरे फिर से दुनिया में अपनी पुरानी पोजीशन को पाने की कोशिश कर रहा है।
The most alarming aspect of Akhand Bharat is its outcome. A few chosen ones will rule the rest. The Hindutva they wish to implement over stretches of the globe is nothing else but a caste system, a social hierarchy based on birth, where a handful of Brahmins are made of God's head, and the rest of the population is born just to serve them in different capacities.
Every element of Hindutva is based on hate, filled with caustic rhetorics against Muslims, because hate towards Muslims and fear mongering against Muslims, they have become a tool to keep power.
जब तक इस देश में स्वच्छ मुल्ला अभियान नहीं चलाओगे, एक एक करके नहीं काटोगे, इनको घर में घुस के खींच के नहीं मारोगे, तब तक कहीं भी शांति स्थापित नहीं हो सकती है। ये ऑन रिकॉर्ड में कह रहा हूँ। सरकार की जिम्मेदारी कब तक रहेगी? सरकार कब तक रहेगी? एक दिन, क्योंकि तुम इतने विभाजित हो चुके हो कि हो सकता है आने वाले समय में तुम्हारी पसंद की सरकार ना रहे, लेकिन तब तुम्हारी रक्षा कौन करेगा?
Fear is the key, because fear of the unknown, even more than the fear of the known, shapes how we behave in society, shapes in fact how we live, how we eat, where we study, what we study. But also fear is real, because what do officers in the government say? Openly, they say if we come to power in another state, Christians and Muslims will be made second-class citizens. That is written in their books. Savarkar wrote that. Golwalkar explained that. In the Hindu Rashtra, in their mind and in their political agenda and in the manifestos of their political parties, there is no space for Muslims. There is no space for Christians. There is very little space for Dalits.
यहाँ रहना ही नहीं चाहिए, इनका बस का ही नहीं है यहाँ रहना। इनका खाना पीना सारा ही कुछ बंद हो जाना चाहिए यहाँ इस देश के अंदर। हमें तो यही कई लोगों को पाकिस्तान ही भेज देना चाहिए, क्योंकि वही इनकी सेफ जगह है।
भारत से हटके जितने
All countries around India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, they want to occupy all to make their Akhand Bharat. It's part of their manifesto. They would do whatever it takes, even if they have to tell a sanitary worker that you are the king of this country.
महाराज हो इस मुल्क के।
Disclaim over a never experienced glory enthralled the Hindu population that has been deprived of dignity by their own high caste Hindus for centuries, not knowing that the Indian subcontinent has never been a single global unit and the dream they are being sold never existed.
So Hindutva is a pitch, it is a ground. And any political fight which is going to happen will happen on the same ground. So you have to, have that saffron ideology to even fight the Hindutva. And this is the fact.
And the intensive penetration and acceptability of this ideology has alarmingly marginalized religious minorities in India, leading to a genocidal wipeout policy within India's current boundaries.
There has been numerous cases of mob lynching, numerous cases of criminal violence in which hundreds of Muslims, more than 100 Muslims were killed. They were butchered. Hashimpura, Nellai, Meerut, Malyana, Muzaffarnagar, Gujarat. Hundreds of places, thousands of Muslims were killed, and irony is, in none of the cases Muslim got justice. So in years to come, and I would say we don't have much time. Within this decade itself, we will see a large-scale Muslim genocide happening. So we are already sitting on a genocidal time bomb which is ticking, and any day we could see violence being meted to the Indian Muslims.
देश का 80% मुसलमान आतंकवादी है। वंदे मातरम नहीं बोल सकता, भारत माता की जय नहीं बोल सकता। जो भारत माता की जय नहीं बोलेगा, वंदे मातरम नहीं बोलेगा, उसको जमीन खोदकर 80 फीट गाड़ देंगे। उसको भारत में रहने का अधिकार नहीं है। हिंदुस्तान में ही रहा आजादी, 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 पुलिस आजादी।
We went to Assam last year, where more than 20,000 Muslim houses were bulldozed. When I say Muslim houses, I mean Muslim houses, because they were pinpointedly marked, and only Muslim houses were bulldozed and not settled. If there were some Hindu houses in the entire setup, they were relocated and shifted to other place peacefully, but the Muslims were not given even an inch of the land.
ये हिंदू मुसलमान का चल रहा है यहाँ। मुसलमान के नाम पे जो भी नाम बूझ के मार देते हैं कि क्या नाम है तेरा, अगर किसी ने मुसलमान नाम बता दिया तो ही मार देते हैं उसको। मुसलमान के साथ अत्याचार हो रहा जी। अनकरीब 20 लड़कों को मार दिया बजरंग दल वालों ने। बाकी कुछ करते हैं छोटी मोटी कार्रवाई, उस टाइम पुलिस आश्वासन देती है, बाद में कुछ नहीं होता, क्योंकि सब लोग इनका ही साथ देते हैं। पुलिस भी इनका ही साथ देती है और ऊपर आला अधिकारी भी इन्हीं का साथ देते हैं, नेता लोग भी इन्हीं का साथ देते हैं। बताओ फिर हम क्या करें? उनकी तो सब सुनते हैं, हमारा सुनने वाला कौन है?
And in this last 25 years, 30 years, since Atal Bihari Vajpayee became Prime Minister, they have penetrated the media, they have penetrated the police, the judiciary, and of course they have captured absolute political power. The state has institutionally become a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party and the RSS.
And it's not just in India, it works around the globe, crawling under the boundaries and maps as Sangh Parivar. A network of organizations articulated around the RSS has become a global movement. HSS is one of the organizations associated with Sangh Parivar, with a huge global membership going unnoticed.
Amongst Indian communities, I believe there's about over 40 odd branches in the United States, and there are branches here. So that ideology has been spread, and of course one of the key aims is to prevent any opposition to what's happening in India to the Muslims. Around them is a family of Hindutva organizations known as the Sangh Parivar, but it includes the youth organizations, the VHP, Bajrang Dal, and many others. So because they were initially blocked from the representational politics, labelled as terrorist, actually outlawed as terrorist, RSS having millions of people, probably the world's largest militia, and the BJP is the political wing.
It works through domestic and international organs that seize political power perpetuate its supremacist ideologies, and silences opposition by threats and provoking communal violence.
300 to 400 youngsters, Hindu youngsters, marched through the streets of Leicester, meters away from where we're sat, just down Green Lane Road, just behind us. And the police were there trying to contain this. They broke shops, smashed shops, Muslim-owned shops, and targeted random Muslim individuals that were in the area. And this has all been documented on social media and can be verified there as well.
We saw that in Leicester, where playing music outside mosques, which happens in India and provokes riots, happened in Leicester, and there's a retaliation by the Muslims, and then they target the Muslims. These are typical fascist tactics that in Nazi Germany, people would march through Jewish areas and they would attack them.
May and September of 2022, we had two separate incidents where groups of Hindu youngsters were fueled by alcohol and also fueled by RSS ideology, were going around and looking for youngsters, Muslim youngsters in particular, and beating them up in essence. The reason why I say Muslim youngsters is because both incidents that occurred that year, they asked about their religious identity. They asked them whether they were Muslim before the incidents took place.
Especially the Hindu diaspora, their absolute commitment to Hindutva is just terrifying, and we are seeing an example of that. But it's not only happening in Leicester, it has also happened in Southall. We had a mob of Hindu fascists coming down to Southall and attacking a group of Sikhs, and the Sikhs had to defend themselves, and a lot of injuries were happened.
One of the examples, again, of how academics are silenced is an example from 2019 when I had invited Kashmiri Muslim feminist scholar in exile, Professor Huma Dar from Berkeley. She came to the university to give a talk about how Kashmir is brutally colonized by India, and people were so threatened by it that there were 300 plus tweets, suggesting violence or trolling and all of those things that were directed at both her and I. Around 20 people we understand, as Hindu nationalists, liberal Hindu subjects, I don't know the difference. They came to this small tiny room in the Department of Ethnic Studies where her talk was being held. These were professors in STEM, professors in sciences, all of these people who are in support of what we would call Hindutva, who think Kashmir is their own backyard.
People need to understand, as a political ideology, this is one of the biggest political ideologies or most organized political movement anywhere in the world. India's population is 1.5 billion. This is one thing people miss, and Hindutva has mobilized itself throughout that population, and it is one of the biggest political movement in the world. Nobody comes close to the political philosophy and the penetration have they done through global institution, either be it Silicon Valley or political parties in any country. Regardless of Christian, Muslim, any country, you'll see it's a philosophy first ideology. They sell their ideas first, and they will go to your population and sell these ideas of inherently peaceful. And once you are sold on this idea that somehow these people are incapable of violence, then you have let yourself into trouble.
ऐसे जिहादियों के लिए क्या कहेंगे आप? इनके जो औलाद पेट में वो सभी बाहर निकाल के मार दे पुलिस। हम तो ये चाहते हैं पुलिस से। ये योगी जी मॉडल है, सुनो। और इस योगी जी मॉडल में इसके जो सहायता करने वाले हैं, उनके भी घरों में बुलडोजर चले।
It's not just a nostalgic fantasy to paint it all saffron. The display of Akhand Bharat map in India's new parliament is a public announcement of their intentions. Working on it, they have successfully founded their base camps in the countries they aim to include in Akhand Bharat. Polarization was key to Hindutva's political success strategy within India, using fear of common enemies as a tool, and that is why India was the biggest franchiser of Islamophobia in the aftermaths of 9/11.
Hindus know full well the persecution from the hand and the hostility of Islam. We will unify every community against the hostility and barbarianism of Islam.
Now they are successfully exporting this strategy outside India, nurturing hatred and division in the societies that had coexisted peacefully before Hindutva came over.
There's a definitely intent to intimidate. They come around the mosque with their cars and with their flags and horning. Muslims and Hindus have coexisted in this area for many years, for decades. They're not historic Hindus that have lived in Leicester. The Hindus that have come more recently and have been inspired by the Hindutva ideology and the RSS ideology, that have they've brought this ideology with them and a particular hatred for Muslims, and they have tried to copy and mimic incidents that are or events that are happening elsewhere, particularly India, and bringing that here and trying to cause division, a similar division here also.
In India, the RSS provides military-style training to its members, weaponizes them, and empowers them as vigilantes, while state machinery run by Hindutva ideology gives them legal cover. Their global counterparts are working in the same way, preparing a Hindutva paramilitary force outside India, which is loyal to Hindutva ideology.
HSS is running training camps throughout the UK, so there's about 100 odd training camps they run monthly, yearly, and then they take these cadets who they consider very suitable, and they are taken to the RSS and given a proper brainwash. So they will have X number of people training for them in their camps in HSS here, and out of them the people who they see promising, they would be brought in as the new leaders of the religious institutions, the yoga centers, the political parties X, Y and Z.
On the global political front, Hindutva is working as Neo-Zionism.
Here, opposing Iraqi Israelis election campaign, she's making money, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of California. She's supported by RSS, BJP, which is interfering with the American election.
In Bangladesh, what is the percentage of Hindu population? 8.5%. 8.5%. With 8.5%, the Hindus are not equal, they are above equal in Bangladesh, because they have a very interesting strategy, the Hindu population in Bangladesh. When the Awami League governments are in power, Awami League government, they behave like the master of Bangladesh, because most of the Hindu people, somehow they support Awami League. But when any other party comes to power, for example, now there is an interim government under Professor Yunus, they then play the victim card. They become the victim. How they play the victim card? With the help of India.
Attacks on Hindus are raging in Bangladesh.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that the government has taken serious note of the incidents of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh and shared its concern with the government of Bangladesh.
Where they can't operate their military, academic and political wings, they operate through charities and cultural groups.
गवर्नमेंट ने एक कॉन्शियस डिसीजन लिया है कि इंडियन कल्चर की रीडेवलपमेंट सिर्फ इंडिया में ही नहीं बल्कि हर एक ऐसे देश में की जाएगी जहां पर इंडियन सिविलाइजेशन का इम्पैक्ट हुआ है। इनफैक्ट सिर्फ मंदिरों के रेनोवेशन के थ्रू ही नहीं बल्कि ह्यूमैनिटेरियन असिस्टेंस प्रोवाइड करके भी इंडिया पूरी दुनिया में अपनी वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की फिलॉसफी को एक्सपैंड कर रही है।
India cannot attack all its neighboring countries that it wants to include in the Akhand Bharat. Instead, the RSS is investing in the common culture.
We see institutions preaching anything in and around yoga, anything in and around Bollywood, anything in and around vegetarianism, which on the face might not be seen as Hindutva. In reality, they are Hindutva.
Bollywood Day at Lums.
All is well, all is well. Funny. Funny. 10 साल पहले तुम्हारे नाम पे दिया जलाया था और उसे आज तक बुझने नहीं दिया. एक चुटकी सिंदूर की कीमत.
People need to understand it's not only Akhand Bharat, but they are selling a philosophy. They're selling an idea that our version of civilization is better than yours. And they're selling this idea in Pakistan to the Pakistanis that you will never be accepted in the wider Muslim Ummah. You will never ever be accepted. They will always see you as a Hindu convert, nothing more. And they're saying the only real place you ever have is under the caste system. You know, all the conflicts, not just limited to Sindh. We're talking Balochistan, we're talking about this so-called Pakistan, Taliban. These kind of entities don't exist. This is Hindutva. You fundamentally have to understand this is Hindutva waging an imperialistic war for Hindu expansionism.
In the Western world, Hindutva is aligning with far-right extremism, from the US to Europe and the UK, on the common grounds of Islamophobia, globally promoted by 9/11, with a toxic mix of propaganda, violence and suppression.
That's a threat for the Muslim community. We see it on social media where they are allying with far-right people from indigenous communities, and that means that the hatred towards Muslims is spreading in the West also, because they're linking up with other groups who hate Muslims.
1.2 million British Muslims want Sharia law in our country. That is 1.2 million Muslims that need to leave. But there's no playing games anymore. We've had enough. We've tolerated it for too long.
Hindutva never aligns itself with anybody. This is not the way of the Chanakya. This is not the way of the Manus. It will never align with anybody. The words they are looking for is use. So they have had enough of their people living and infiltrating these organizations that they know them from inside out. And once you are there, you don't have to align with anybody. You just have to put the finance on the table, and money makes the world go round. The far right might want to align with Hindutva. That is a different story. Hindutva doesn't care about the far right.
It's not just about Hindutva's idea of Akhand Bharat. The construct of India is expansionist at its core. Even its founding liberals had expansionist ideology and intentions. The Congress was making Akhand Bharat even before Hindutva came to power. The BJP has just removed the smokescreen. Akhand Bharat is a continuation of India's ongoing imperial project that started 75 years ago when the British left the newly founded state in Brahmin hands. Indira Gandhi was no different when it comes to atrocities on minorities and lower castes in India.
When you see India as a political ideology, there is only one ideology they predominantly believe in, regardless of a political party, and that remains the caste system. That's why all roads in philosophy in that region will always end up at the caste system, at the door of the caste system, nowhere else.
So if we look from the perspective, historical perspective of oppression of the Dalit by the caste Hindus, and if we look at the current perspective of Muslim being oppressed by the Hindutva, so Muslims are the new Dalits, and that is what Hindutva wants.
Muslim Dalits, and that's what Muslims denied to be. Outrightly denied to be the outcasts, outrightly denied to accept their existence as a lower social status. And the creation of Pakistan was actually the biggest revolt against Brahmin rule, biggest opposition to be classed as untouchable in the Hindu social status. But now, when the secular constitution of India has been practically revoked, when India has been saffronized to be a Hindu Rashtra, this is not the constitution that all its citizens had a covenant with. To provide a logic for Akhand Bharat, India now claims itself to be a continuation of an ancient civilization, the Vishwa Guru, the teacher of the world. India's claim of being ancient civilization is fundamentally wrong, because the ancient civilization they claim as their inheritance lies in Pakistan.
You must understand, Hindu is not an ism, Hindu is not a religion, Hindu is not a particular way of life as people are trying to define. Hindu is a land. Because of the land, people became Hindu. Because of the people, the civilization became Hindu. Because of the civilization, the nation became Hindustan.
There is only one resistance, and that is Pakistan, created on the ideology of two-nation theory that denies unification of both cultural and religious identity of the people living in this subcontinent.
There is no difference in the opinion among the political parties of India. They want to control South Asia, period. They want a hegemonic, hierarchical subsystem in South Asia, in which, in that subsystem, India wants to rule. But very interesting that from day one, Pakistan became the challenger to that hegemonic dream of India. Although Pakistan is a much smaller country in everything, in population, in land, in economic strength, everything. But they have successfully challenged the Indian hegemony in South Asia.
There would have been no political or social freedom movement in India if Pakistan was not created. Pakistan is the incentive.
India's Dalits came together for Adi Dharam movement, demanding for registration of their separate religion. They demanded their separate religious identity in India. They thought, just like the Khalistan movement, just like Pakistan has already been created in the name of separate religion, if we gave them their separate religion, they would demand for their separate country too. They would lose Delhi, they would lose Punjab, South India would be lost. Because this movement had a covert intention to demand a separate homeland on the basis of religion, just like Muslims.
So to create Akhand Bharat, they have to deconstruct Pakistan. To deconstruct Pakistan, they have to deconstruct two-nation theory.
आध्यात्मिक जगत में पाकिस्तान कोई वास्तविकता नहीं है। या तो उसका भारत में विलय होगा या पाकिस्तान इतिहास से समाप्त होगा, हमेशा के लिए समाप्त होगा।
आज समय है इस्लाम के खिलाफ, इस्लाम के जिहाद के खिलाफ पूरी धरती को एकजुट करने का, पूरी धरती को लामबंद करने का। हिंदू राष्ट्र बहुत बड़ा स्वप्न है, वीर सावरकर का स्वप्न है, शिवाजी का स्वप्न है, लेकिन जो सपना हम सबकी आंखों में होना चाहिए, केवल अफगानिस्तान तक नहीं, हमें मक्का के उस मंदिर को भी लेना होगा जहां महादेव की गंगा जमजम के रूप में बहती है। अगर आपके पूजा स्थलों में मक्केश्वर महादेव का मंदिर नहीं आया, अगर आपने मक्केश्वर महादेव को नहीं जीता, तो धरती की कोई भी ताकत इस्लाम को कमजोर नहीं कर सकती। आपको कैंसर परवार वहां जाकर करना पड़ेगा जहां से सारा कैंसर फैलता है।
Pakistan is the wall that's not letting saffron terror spill all across the region. Hindutva's aim to engulf the territories of its neighboring countries and beyond is an imminent threat, and the world needs to respond to it before it's too late. It's a battle of existence, a battle against saffron terror.